Welcome to the rice fields.
Hey, we're back. We're talking budget red dots.
Let's go.
Best Budget Red Dots 2019 edition.
What's happening, fellas? SuperSetCA back with you. Today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects, budget red dots. You wouldn't think it because, you know, we feature scopes on this channel so much.
Vortex Strike Eagle.
Field of view as wide as
The Swarovski Z6i BRTI.
Tell you the truth, one of my very first videos was a budget red dot, the Bushnell TRS-25. If you remember, if not, I'll link it here. They've come a long way since the Bushnell TRS-25. They're a lot more reliable, a lot more battery life, and still spend a little bit of money and get a lot of functionality. Just like the scopes video, we'll establish some ground rules on what we decide should be included in this video. Number one is when we're talking budget red dots, what is the budget that we're talking about? If you spend a little bit over $100, you can get a lot more functionality and it'll be a lot more reliable. So our budget's going to be about 100 to 400 bucks. Anything above that is what I would consider premium or duty grade. And we're not going to include those in this video. There will be another video, you know, coming in a little bit later down the line. So when we're talking about combat and duty grade, these are budget red dots. They're not made for duty, but they're made for competition or range use only. I'm not saying you can't use them for that because there's actually some departments that are actually using some of these. As always, we've listed the dots in order of price, not in order of preference. The links are in the description if you want to learn more about these optics and help support the channel. So let's talk about budget red dots. Let's go.
Sig Sauer Romeo 5.
The Romeo 5. Sometimes the simplest things are the best. I mean, this Romeo 5 is essentially replacing the Bushnell TRS-25 on the low end of the market, in that if you want a simple red dot that works and brings a lot of functionality for what you're paying for it, the Romeo 5 is your guy. And these are a few reasons. Number one is a simple 2 MOA LED. But as you can see, under magnification, the dot is still a little distorted. You know, it's really made for shooting 1x, not for shooting medium range. It has 8 brightness settings. You'll probably need to use the highest setting on 8 on a very sunny day, but it does have 2 night visions if you're so inclined. The battery life is rated at 50,000 hours. I think that's a medium setting. So if you have it at the max setting, it's going to be a little bit less. And also, to extend that battery life, it has the MOTAC motion sensor. So it's sensing that the optic is not being used. It's going to shut off. I think the shut off timer is about 120 seconds or 2 minutes. And then as soon as you pick up the gun again, it's going to turn back on. So it prolongs the battery life even more, which is, I think, is a great feature. As far as mounts are concerned, it has 2 mounts, the absolute and 1/3 co-witness. The mount that's on here right now is the 1/3 co-witness mount. It does not have a QD on the top and the side. It's got these toolless adjustment knobs, which the Holosun and a lot of the micros are known for. So you just flip them over. So even though it brings a lot of features to the market, it does have some limitations. You can kind of see it in here that it has some glare, especially if the sun is behind you. When you're shooting it, you don't really notice that glare that much, but it's there if you stare at it, obviously. So in summary, who's this optic for? I'd say, like, basically, if you're looking for, hey, I want to buy a red dot for my shotgun, for my PCC, I don't want to spend a ton of money, I only got 100 bucks or something like that, for something that's not going to break, and something that's very simple and bright enough for daylight, then the Romeo 5 is your guy.
Sig Sauer Romeo 4H.
$200. 300.
So the Sig Sauer Romeo 4H. If you took everything that was good about the Romeo 5 and said, hey, I want to kick it up a notch, add some features, but I want the ability to shoot to medium and long range with the red dot. That's what the Sig Sauer Romeo 4H is about. It's not the first time we've taken a look at a micro red dot that's had a BDC reticle. We did this in our previous video for the 503 ACASS. I'll link it so you can check that out. The Romeo 4H has a choice of, you got a dot, circle dot, dot with BDC, and a circle dot with BDC. As we mentioned in the Romeo 5, it had some glare, while the Sig has very little glare. Just has a little bit of a vertical glare, none of the crazy glare around the other edges. So, and just like the Romeo 5, it shares many other features of that optic, and the very long battery life of 50,000 hours, even though it's got different reticles, right? It's got the MOTAC motion sensor. It's got 2 mounts. It includes a QD mount. It comes with lens covers, which are not shown here, including see-through lens covers. It has a toolless adjustment knob, just like the Romeo 5. 10 daytime brightness settings and 2 night vision, so it's actually a little bit brighter than the Romeo 5. You do need to use a magnifier in order to see the BDC dot. So we're using the Holosun HMX3 magnifier. I was really surprised when I looked through it the first time. I was like, man, that is like basically looking through a scope. Excellent clear glass, has good eye relief at 2.75, so it's plenty even for when you're wearing eye pro. The flip design is really awesome. It includes a QD mount and a spacer for absolute or lower co-witness, depending upon whichever dot you have in front of it. So in summary, if you're looking to move up from the Romeo 5 single dot to an optic that allows multiple reticles, including a BDC for shooting out to medium range, and an upgrade to the glass quality and feature set, then the Romeo 4H is an excellent choice.
Holosun 512C.
So, the Holosun 512C, the first of the big window budget red dots. So it is a big window, just like EOTech, so it's fully enclosed, so it's actually a little bit more durable. As you can see in the older model 515, it's easier to block the LED when it's not fully enclosed. First thing you notice when you mount the gun is how clear the reticle appears compared to more grainy EOTechs. You can choose reticles between the dot, the circle dot, the circle only. I'm not really sure why you would do circle only unless you're using a shotgun sight. 10 daytime brightness settings, although, you know, generally you don't need to use them all to max, just because with a circle dot it's a lot easier to see, even though it's a bigger sight. But just like the smaller sights, you get a very long battery life. Unlike the other sights though, it is solar powered on the top, although the solar power is a backup. Speaking about power, you remember Sig's motion sensor technology? Holosun's got their own shake awake feature. If the sight isn't touched for a limited amount of time, the dot will turn off, and then when you pick it up, it will turn back on, so which is great. So those were the highlights. What about some of the limitations of this optic? The only limitation that I see is the adjustment knob. Require a tool in order for you to use it. Since it comes with a tool, it's kind of easy to lose, so just keep that in mind when you're dealing with this optic. And number 2, it doesn't have a QD mount, so you just have this cross bolt on it. So once you zero it, then you're not going to be able to switch it quickly with other sights. So in summary, who's this optic for? Essentially, if you want an EOTech with its large clear window and circle dot reticle for fast shooting, but you also want some additional features like, you know, reticle choice or smart shut off and, you know, solar power backup, then the Holosun 512C is definitely what you're looking for.
Vortex Razor AMG UH1.
Say, that's a nice rail you got there. It'd be a shame if someone used it all. Obviously, this is a sizable optic to actually put on your top rail because it takes up a lot of rail space. So just like the Holosun 512, it's fully enclosed, so it's added durability just like EOTech. It's got a big window just like EOTech. It uses holographic technology, it's non-LED. It has a 65 MOA circle and a 1 MOA center dot. So as I mentioned before, very easy to use under magnification. However, that you cannot change reticles unlike the Holosun 512. It's got 15 brightness settings, highest of all the optics listed here. So you can crank it up all the way 15 if you need to. You don't need to on a bright day because this optic is very, very bright. Speaking of brightness, when you're looking through the optic, it has very clear glass. It's the clearest glass of all the optics that we tested. There's absolutely no glare.
So those were the highlights. What about some of the limitations of this optic?
Number one, just like the EOTech, when I look through it, the reticle is a little pixelated. That's going to bother some people, although it doesn't really bother me because it's a 1x sight you're using for short range and you're focusing on the target. The second thing I mentioned earlier is even though it's a fully enclosed sight, it's a durable sight, it's the heaviest of the optics at 11 ounces. So it's just like putting an EOTech on here. If that's going to be a problem, especially if you use it with a magnifier, then that may be not the optic for you. And last but not least, since it is holographic, as opposed to LED, it's got the shortest battery life. It's only 1500 hours. So just know that you need to change batteries on this optic. Not like the other LEDs that are at 50,000.
So in summary, who's this optic for?
But if you're looking for something that rides the line between combat and duty grade, and it's got, EOTech like reticle and a rugged body, and it's got looking through clear pane of glass with Vortex customer service, and this is a sight for you, and it's excellent in every way.
Best Budget Red Dots 2019 edition.
Well, that is it, fellas, for budget red dots, one of my favorite topics. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe and turn on notifications for the channel. We really appreciate it. As always, links are at the bottom of the description that help to support the channel if you want to learn more information about each of the optics mentioned. Tune in for more, and we'll see you guys on the range.